evening, everyone. Shall we come to order? I'd like to welcome everyone to the full council meeting, Wednesday, 9th of April, and also those joining us online. So before the meeting starts proper, it was a sad announcement of the passing of a former councillor, David Manning. We will in a moment stand for a minute's silence, those who can stand. But before we do so, can I invite David Harris to give a brief eulogy?
Thank you very much, Mayor. David Mannings first danced his way onto Weymouth and Portland Borough Council in the all-out elections of 2004. He was a keen ballroom dancer and had joined the councillor Brian Ellis, already a councillor for Preston, to fight for improvements to the ballroom floor at the Pavilion. Preston residents elected him to join Brian in representing them, seeing how he was a dedicated community campaigner living in the heart of his community. He gained a further 4-year spell in 2008, representing the people of Preston and Sutton Points, taking him up to 2012, showing a particular interest in planning and environmental issues. Although David lost his borough seat in 2012, he resumed his councillor career when Brian Ellis stepped down from Dorset County Council in 2013. David was elected to replace him in what was called the Dodmore Ward. This meant that he represented the people that lived in Radipole, Preston and Sutton Points for the next 4 years. David was very much a community-focused councillor, putting the people he represented first in his thinking and use and actions. After a 2-year gap in 2019, David once again decided to seek election for this council and came top of the poll in Preston. He served them well until it felt that he had to step down because of his deteriorating health. Although David was a proud Bristolian, he readily adopted Weymouth as his home, but he also loved the countryside. And many of you may know that he owned a couple of fields on the outskirts of Preston. What you might not be aware of is that he was authorised breeder of Exmoor ponies. And early on in his political career, he was also the proud owner of an Exmoor foal, born in this town. His great friend and colleague, Honourable Alderman Reverend Brian Ellis, sums up David's outlook on life, saying, David was a character who loved the community he served. He was a joy to work with over the years. He was prepared to roll up his sleeves, and his strength lay outside the formal settings of the council chamber. I remember him cleaning up graffiti on Preston Hill, the sort of activity he was pleased to get involved in. He will be missed by his community, so I would ask all present to please stand and join us in a minute's silence as we remember our hard-working yet modest colleague, David Mannings.
Thank you, everyone. Soon. So moving back to the agenda, item 2, apologies for absence. You read out the apologies for absence.
We have apologies for absence from councillor Hope, councillor Bell, councillor Day and councillor Dickens. Sorry.
And councillor Surrey. Right, so I'm going to propose that, it'll be seconded by councillor Nicholson. All those in favour? Thank you, everyone. Next is declarations of interest. There have been no pre-notified declarations. Has anyone remembered anything that would like to declare now? If you do remember anything as we go along, flag it up at the time. Item 4, minutes of the last meeting. So, Master recommend that we accept them, but had any problems with accepting the minutes of the last meeting? If not, I will propose, seconded by councillor Nicholson. All those in favour?
Is unanimous change?
Item 5, councillors' questions and statements. Do we have any councillor questions? Just not received. None came in late. Right. Right, and there's announcements. Oh, that's a civil.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was on a train this morning between Leamington Spa and the NEC, and a couple of ladies of retirement age happened to mention that they were holidaying here in May towards Bowleys. And the comment they made that whilst the harbour was lovely, there wasn't quite as much going past on the water at that end. And so I would like to know what you propose to do about that, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I do need to give it a mayor. Moving swiftly onwards, the town mayor's announcements. I'm going to move aside briefly at the start of this and invite councillor Taylor to explain why this is on my desk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On next to the mayor, and slightly obscuring the view of the deputy mayor at the moment. So I do apologise. It's the Dorset Senior Cup that Weymouth Football Club won 2 weeks ago, beating the defending holders Helmworthy Recreation 2-1 to win for the 26th time in the club's history. And bearing in mind the, let's say, less favourable situation on the pitch this season, with the club being relegated from the National League South, it's important to celebrate anything on the pitch for the football club this time of year. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
That's very much celebrates this cup and looks forward to us being promoted again next season. Thank you. So a kind of brief recap of my month. It's a great privilege being there, serving the town which I grew up in. I get to go to all sorts of places and see people I didn't know existed. One new venture was going to the Air Scout hut in Westham, which I hadn't noticed before, but it was a prefab hut, and they've got an absolutely fabulous new building, which cost about £800,000. It's really state of the art, and it's got solar panels, really good insulation, battery storage, underfloor heating. So it's really, the green credentials are, it ticks all the boxes, and it's a really good size. So although it wasn't intended that way, it's formed a good replacement for what we've lost at the fire station. So I was very impressed with that facility. Hopefully we'll see it used a lot by the people who live nearby. Got to visit HMS Sutherland, a naval anti-submarine frigate in the harbour. That was a good visit. I haven't done that for a few years. I used to do that back in the 70s. They used to open up ships every Sunday afternoon. A small but very important visit was out to Littlemore. There was a friendly food club series of sessions where they taught people how to cook using raw ingredients. And at the end of the course, they graduated, that's the bit I went for, and gave out cooking appliances. There was air fryers and microwave ovens. I was able to do that on the basis of the grant that had been awarded by the town council. So well done, Town Council. Very good grant, very good cause, and it's helping people eat healthy food rather than having to rely on microwave meals. I just to see Elijah at Choral Society up in Abbotsbury. Yeah, it's really first. I get to go to some really first class entertainments like at fundraising. So thank you, Town Council, for letting me go these things on your behalf. This weekend, we invited Mr. Noreen Singh, sand sculpture. We awarded him an award from the Sand World, and we had someone down from the Indian Embassy, so that was fun. You may have seen it in the press. Two things to advertise. One is the forthcoming events. One is Tumbledown Farm's grand opening on Friday afternoon. On the Thursday, there's a family fun day, so if you've got children or grandchildren and want a good free day out on Thursday, you want, but for the grand opening is 2 o'clock on Friday. So we're looking forward to that. It's been a culmination of many years' work, and this new building is going to be key. It gives us a bit like we've done some of the food club. It's a way of helping people grow the food on the farm, and then when we get glass, they'll move into the classroom and the teaching kitchen. We've got one of our employees at Town Council that used to be a home economics teacher, so we teach people how to cook, how to pickle, how to make pies, and then we can then store food, and then we can also market it through our various establishments around the town. So it's really looking forward to that. So that'll be Friday. Hopefully you might see a few of you there. And the final one to plug. Make sure you all got to get some of my fundraising. This is the dance we've got at Jubilee Sidings at the club there. It's going to be, it should be great fun. Got one of my bands I play with. It's a 10-piece blues and soul band. It'll be loosely based around Blues Brothers, but lots of tunes you'll recognise. So book a ticket, come and hear the saxophone, and we've got a great band. So do come along. Finally, just some thoughts. I've been to, I get to go to all sorts of other places I haven't told you about. Two of them were civic services. So it's, and of those who very much get the idea of being on the council, not as a means of self-promotion or aggrandisement, but as service. And the idea of what we're doing here is serving our communities. And so you know, the sermons are all about that. So I pass some of that. I got lots of forms of words from that, but the very message on that is that it really is a privilege to be able to serve people. And I was thinking at the end of in some of these meetings is how it works well. You know, where it doesn't work well is if we divide and form opposing camps. When it works well is when we come together and talk about the issues. And I think about the last few years on the council. Sometimes I've come to meetings with a kind of rough idea of how I might vote. But when we come to debate, and I listen to other people around the room speak, and I change my opinion based on the debate, and then vote accordingly. And I think that's where the council works really well, is when we can be listening to other people in the chamber respectfully and be prepared to change our opinions. So I leave that to you as my thought for the day, how the council works well. Next we move on to updates from Dorset councillors. So this is the new thing we've done since during this term. It's a short update from some of the people that serve on both councils. So do we have any updates? Councillor O'Leary.
Yes, there's an issue in my ward, but one that affects Wayne and follows on from the comment about Bowleys. I had a meeting alongside Councillor Dickinson about 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago with the cabinet member for planning at Dorset about the Riviera. which a number of you will be aware is currently empty and in a bit of a state. He is working with conservation and planning enforcement officers on the subject, and the scaffolding has come down, which we're unsure at the minute whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And then we do have a meeting upcoming with somebody that is interested in the future of the site, which hopefully will be a positive. So while it is a ward issue, it is one that affects the skyline of Weymouth, as it were, and one that affects the whole town. So hopefully we can get a positive way forward on that.
That's good to hear that you're making progress. We look forward to updates. Any other updates, councillor Dickinson?
Just to let everybody know that the Littlemore Family Hub has moved another step closer. So in a few more weeks or months, we should have a fully functioning family hub at Littlemore.
Most welcome news. Councillor Weller.
Thank you. As you're aware, there's an executive advisory panel at Dorset Council working on the Dorset local plan. That's going along at pace now, thank goodness, because it was stymied for a couple of years. But side to side that now they've established a new EAP, which is on the design code. Any of you who have planning experience will know how important that is, because so often, and all members will know that people will say, how on earth were they allowed to build that? Or why didn't they do this? The design code will very, very much inform that, so that each county has its own identity. We can make sure that buildings across the county actually look as though they are Dorset buildings.
Thanks,
Yes, following what Councillor Dickens said, if you are interested in the Littlemore Family Hub, there is a drop-in on Friday, 1 to 2 at the Top Club on Illiers Road, so you can see exactly what is a family hub, what's going to happen. So I do recommend it.
Councillor Clifford.
Some members will have heard the council leader from Dorset Council here just before this meeting started. It's probably worth just touching on a few of the points that he made. The opportunities that may be coming Weymouth and Weymouth and Portland's way are very significant, of national importance, and there's quite an exciting series of opportunities that touch on tourism, engineering, energy, storage, and all of which have jobs and opportunities attached to them. So some very exciting times. We have asked as a town council that the leader takes back a message to the lead people at Dorset Council to come here, give us a briefing, and to come with a request of what this council can do to help where appropriate and where we jointly agree that we can support it. I hope there'll be something across the whole council, but it's certainly something I think has got huge potential and opportunity for our area, our town, jobs, our young people, and everything that flows from that, from skills training through to infrastructure.
Yes, that's a good update. Just to reassure you that the leader and me as mayor had a very much encouraging Matt Piles and crew to come and give us a thorough briefing on all these plans at the earliest opportunity. Councillor Clifford.
Yeah, just one other quick one. People will have seen, I'm sure, through the media that there's a new chief executive that's been is about to be appointed tomorrow. Hopefully, if that goes through, that appointment will take place in full in August. What's interesting with the chief executive is not what you might call a traditional council chief executive, although she does have some background. She has more background in private and charitable organisations, which I think might be very interesting for us all.
Thank you. Well, we'll move on to public question time. I believe we have a number of questions. Who was on the list? Perfect. Yeah, we've got three. So there are three questions. First one, Penny Quilter. Yeah, there's Grant.
I've submitted a question, if I could just have a little introduction to it, please. So I think most of you know me, but my name is Penny Quilter. I wish to say a few words in way of introduction to my question concerning the recent decision to start removing palm trees from the Esplanade. I am known to many of you, but for the record, I've been on the Weymouth Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group for 4 years and represent Weymouth Climate Hub on the CEE Working Group. I recently completed a residential permaculture course to inform what I do as an active member of the community, where I have an interest in growing and developing local food resilience. I have been to look at the trees and the surrounding area, and I object to the decision taken to remove them. The public interest and the outpouring of love for the Canary Farms on the seafront is notable, and it is in the hundreds. Trees are beneficial to people and the environment in the widest sense of that word. The council tree policy identifies how trees are to be managed, including the benefits and the need to protect trees and increase plantings for future benefit. I'd like to suggest that the removing of any established species of tree be considered as a last resort. The replacement plantings that have been suggested so far will not provide the same benefit as the trees that are to be removed. The traffic light flagging system used by the council to assess the impact of proposed council activities, like tree removals, was assessed as yellow with regards to meeting climate and ecological emergency objectives. I believe that this may have been a red flag. I understand that there is a need to balance competing needs, but in this instance, I don't think this may have been achieved. The written question that I submitted is, I would like to understand how the decision to remove palm trees from the promenade was reached. The Environment and Services Committee papers that considered the options for removal do not appear to have included options for retaining the tree. Given the tree impoverished status of our town, a climate crisis, and the relative success and benefits that these trees have brought to the seafront, should the council not be considering a planting scheme that provided palm trees along the entire length of the promenade? Should further expert opinion into ways of retaining the palms be sought? And is Weymouth Council satisfied that the removal of these iconic, useful and much loved trees is the best and the only option available? Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Just for those who are new to these public questions, there are ways that we have the question and then we hand over to one of the officers for the response. It's not an invitation to start a debate. These are a question answer. So hand over to Charmaine for the response.
Thank you, Chair. At the Environment and Services Committee held on the 12th of March, it was agreed during discussions held that the palm trees being removed should be reused elsewhere if possible. Officers have looked at various options and following conversations with Dorset Council, has been agreed this week that the 2 palms that are due to be removed in the autumn will be relocated under Dorset Council land for the King statute to replace 2 trees here that died. The council do have a tree management policy, climate and ecological residency plan and seafront strategy, and within these there are currently no plans to consider a planting scheme along the whole length of the seafront. We have 2 in-house arborists and they have informed our decision-making process throughout. Although the council will be relocating trees, we will also be replacing them with cabbage palms, increasing our tree stock, not decreasing. Articles that featured on social media at local and national press have been misleading and not factual.
Thank you. And Kaz Ted, can I ask you to come and submit your question?
Thank you. It's along those similar lines about the trees. So certainly this was the case when I submitted the question. 4 beautiful palm trees planted on Weymouth Promenade in 2012, I feel are now in peril. A decision was made by the Environment and Services Committee on the 12th of March to remove them, based on concerns they were causing structural issues on the promenade, which now needs to be dealt with before it creates health and safety / further structural and material issues, which will increase risk. The evidence for this seems to be, having looked at the committee notes, 5 unlabelled photos in Appendix D, photos of palm damage. Let's take a closer look at those. I will give a oral description. Picture 1 was a planter with cracked or missing mortar. No formal assessment provided. Could it be from plant growth or water ingress? Given our coastal environment and weather, this isn't surprising. Honestly, it looks like an easy job to repair. Joking aside, I could probably pop down to B&Q, get some wall filler and repair it this evening. If you had a crack in your house, you wouldn't tear the house down, you would fix it. Picture 2 and 5, same story, cracked mortar plus some enthusiastic flowering plants. Cracked and patchwork paving is common along the promenade, even where there are no trees. Again, perhaps a formal exploration into the actual cause of these cracks. Pictures 3 and 4, this one shows the smashed planter near the Boat Cafe, home to one of the targeted palms. But this damage was caused by a coach crash back in August, not rogue tree roots. At the time, a Weymouth Town Council spokesperson confirmed a coach hit one of the concrete flower beds on the prom yesterday. As a temporary measure, while the repairs are assessed and carried out, we have put up barriers around it. The barriers remain, that the tree now gets the blame. These photos do not conclusively prove that the palm trees are causing structural harm. The cause of damage either hasn't been properly assessed or it is clearly unrelated in the case of the palm crash victim. Meanwhile, promenade hazards are reality. Traffic, street furniture, cycles, scooters, roller skaters, sand and banana skins. The modest cracks in these planters barely register by comparison and can be repaired cost effectively versus removal and relocation. Will the council please consider or reconsider actually the decision to remove these 4 palm trees, properly assess the cause of the planter damage and do all it can to retain these beloved and beneficial trees, appreciated not just for their greenery, but as iconic, calming, character-giving features of Weymouth seafront vibes? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to hand over to Charmaine Denny to provide a response.
Thank you, Chair. So just to confirm, the palm tree which was hit by a coach, that one isn't being removed, the wall is being repaired. So the repairs are being carried out on that one, so there is no removal of that palm tree. We can also confirm that all damage has been properly assessed by our assets and management team. There is no decision for the council to reconsider, and the council are not removing the palms. They are relocating them and replacing them with smaller palms. So the council, as previously stated, are increasing the palm stock, and we are not decreasing the palm stock.
Thank you. A third question from Keith. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the previous meeting, there was 2 scenarios on the same subject, palm trees. Nobody's looked at retaining the trees by rebuilding the broken wall that was damaged by a coach and installing a root barrier. Now, root barrier, palm trees don't normally damage hard surfaces. They're not. I come from an agricultural background. They don't normally do that sort of damage. And they aren't doing that sort of damage. It was the coach that done that damage. Someone has then had a look at all the trees. And yes, there are a few little cracks, but nothing tragic. Now, installing a root barrier would be far cheaper than trying to transplant those trees and replacing the trees with smaller palms. So could we consider some remedial works, rebuild the walls, any cracks, but install root barriers to stop this progressing any further? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I've been informed that this is a late notified question, so there may not be a response tonight. Is that still the situation?
That is correct, but just to reconfirm that that one which got hit by a coach isn't being removed, that
Yes.
all has been,
I
yeah.
understand.
But as the question was received only earlier this afternoon, we haven't had a chance to speak to our Argos team, but what we will do is ensure that we get an answer for you, and we will respond to your email and also circulate it to all councillors.
Right, that concludes the public question time. You're welcome to stay for the whole meeting. It is a fascinating meeting, but if you chose to depart, that would be equally understandable.
Thank you. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor.
Funding for a new council vehicle. So I'm going to hand over to Bendy. Hand over to Bendy to introduce this report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to seek the approval from the full council to use money from the Vehicle Procurement Reserve, the VPR, for funding a new electric vehicle to the council's fleet. The council currently have 3 working electric vehicles, and this would take it up to 4. The proposed vehicle is an electric tipper, a caged tipper van, which within the appendix shows the type of vehicle that we're considering. And it would increase the efficiency for the daily litter round and reduce the requirement to return to the depot mid-round, which currently our diesel vehicle has because it hasn't got the caged element to the tipper van. It would also allow us to reduce the amount of diesel usage, mainly because the litter round is one of the tasks we have to do 3 times a day during the winter period, and that increases to 5 times a week during the summer period. And that's currently done by a diesel vehicle, which is one of our highest mileage vehicles throughout the year. So this will make a significant saving on our diesel usage. Officers feel that the purchase of the electric vehicle is the right move at £47,893, compared to the lease option of £38,014 over a 5-year period. So officers feel this is the right move to make because by spending 3/4 the amount of money over that 5-year period and then having nothing to show for it at the end of that 5-year period, by purchasing it, we would still have a using electric vehicle over that time. And it would also help the council to achieve one of the key actions for the decarbonisation strategy by reducing our Scope 1 emissions. So the recommendation would be for full council to agree the release of £47,893 from the vehicle reserve for the purchase of the new electric vehicle to update the council's fleet.
We'll move on to the debate. I saw a hand from Councillor Sewell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think I'm in favour broadly. It makes a lot of sense, a step in the right direction. I sound ridiculously glib. 2 questions, if I may. 47,893 of the reserve. How big is the reserve? And secondly, what's the anticipated lifespan of the vehicle? Whilst appreciating there's a degree of how long's a piece of string, but we're comparing to a 5-year lease period. Are we expecting it to be, I assume, beyond 5 years? Thank you.
Yeah, so the current pot is between 180 and 190,000, so it's in that sort of area. And yes, we would expect it to last more than 5 years and hopefully double that time. So that's why officers feel that that's the right move to give us that asset moving forward. But thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harris.
My question's been answered, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Toft.
My question is about the battery. I noticed in the particulars that it has a guarantee for, apologies. I noticed that the battery has a guarantee for 8 years. Do you know how much a replacement battery is going to cost after that time? Because I should imagine it's quite a sizable battery.
I don't know the cost of the replacement battery, as one of our other officers looked into the different aspects of the vehicle, but we can certainly go back to the where we're looking to purchase it from and get that information as to what that might be, cost wise.
That's okay. Councillor Young.
Right, well, I'm in favour of this, but I'd just like to ask a question about the usage of this vehicle. Does it round? Is it constantly stopping and starting at frequent intervals as it goes around dealing with the bins? Yeah, which would add weight to the suitability of an electric vehicle rather than having a diesel vehicle sitting there idling.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. The vehicle moves around the different open spaces where we have bins, which all manner of different litter is obviously deposited. So yeah, as it goes round, and as I said in the report, this vehicle would enable us, because it's got a cage tipper, to have a bigger capacity in terms of that, and we can actually then complete the round in one circuit, rather than at the minute they have to go back halfway through the round and then obviously finish the round the second visit.
I was just thinking about the electric vehicles are ideal for this because you're not having to switch them on and switch them again. Stop. With the diesel, they might sit there idling.
Yeah, and then the other part of it is, and one of the reasons to go through a cage tip with that is, although it's ideal for the litter round, it's also the multi-purpose use, so it'd be useful for a number of other things as well as the litter, but the litter round, because it's a high mileage vehicle within our fleet, it would be a really big saving for us in terms of that use.
Okay, councillor Atkinson.
I just wanted to partly to reiterate what councillor Tom said. I think it would be worthwhile knowing the cost of replacing batteries because they could be quite considerable. And the second point I had is how long will we have to defer the decision before we could buy a European or British made vehicle rather than Chinese one?
Yeah, so I probably can't answer your question in terms of when the British vehicle might be available, but at the minute, where we're at, that the vehicle we've gone for is cost-wise a good solution to what we're looking for in terms of the use and type of vehicle and the electric vehicle being one of the directions the council has asked officers to move in. But obviously, as this technology is moving and it's moving obviously quickly, we'll obviously, because there's we've got 8 other flatbed tippers across the fleet, as those vehicles fail and new technology comes on at the right points, we'll look to do those bits of research, you know, each time we're in a point we need a new vehicle.
Okay. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. When we come to put our logos on it and branding it, can we have something on it to say Weymouth Town Council is going towards net zero or something like that to advertise that it's an electric vehicle? So it doesn't look like an electric vehicle, and unless sort of it's, I know it'll be quiet, but it'll run me over because I'm wandering the roads. I just want something that actually advertises what we're doing as well as what the council is.
Absolutely, yeah, and because it's out and about and around the whole town, it's a really good advertisement for us following that process. And all the other 3 vehicles have got magnetic signs, so even if they lease or they change, we can take the sign off and then apply it to a new vehicle. So we use the same logo and sign that we've got and make it fit that vehicle. So we'll definitely get that done.
Councillor O'Leary.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, the reason we've chosen to go for a electric vehicle is due to carbon reduction. And I understand that, but may I ask, while obviously the running costs of an electric vehicle is lower compared to a diesel or petrol, what would, and although we don't know the cost of the replacement battery, what would the cost be of a petrol or diesel alternative to the vehicle in terms of the outright buy?
So yeah, I haven't got that figure at hand tonight, but I can certainly give you find a comparison for diesel.
Battery cheaper than the diesel partial.
Yeah. Got 3 more, and obviously later on, so it's Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Can we ensure, as we're moving over to electric vehicles, and our electric vehicles that we run at the moment do indicate that they are electric vehicles, so we're already doing that, which is quite good and it's very noticeable to people. But can we ensure that within our budgets we're allowing for the fact that batteries at some time in the future, and it will be some considerable time in the future, as those of us who already run electric cars know, we've got that budgeted in, just as we would do with ordinary vehicle maintenance. And in fact, of course, the maintenance on an electric car is very much lower because there aren't all those moving parts that constantly need replacement and wear out and jam up and all the other things. But we just need to have that in the budget so that should something happen with our battery, that we're covered for it.
Bridget, so we got Councillor Harris, then Councillor Bridget Dickinson.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first thing I want to do is reassure Howard that when we went into this policy, we deliberately went for a vehicle each year so that we could actually allow for the improvements of our own provision coming from this country, so that hopefully by the time we get to the replacement of Visit Vehicle 6, we will be able to buy British, as long as the British Steel still making them to go into it. The second issue that has just been mentioned, the batteries. My question about the batteries is, are we needing to look, as we go through this process, will we need to look at how we charge our batteries? What sort of charging mechanism, when are we charging them to get the best possible rate for charging them? In terms of our own electricity, have we got solar panels that could actually charge up a battery that then charges up our cars, so that we actually use the sun to charge our cars and not even have to go to buying electricity for them?
So we obviously, I brought a paper a little while ago and we've installed some of those charge points now in terms of where, so as we increase our vehicles, in electric vehicles, we've got places to charge them. So that work's been done, and on the promenade, you might have seen by the beach office, there's a double port now that's been installed. So as we get vehicles like this, we can charge them ready with the right fast chargers that we need to use. That particular supply, we've worked with one of the other offices to make sure that rate is a favourable rate that we can through our laser contract with obviously the Islington and Dorset Council. And yeah, the problem with solar panel charging with vehicles, certainly bigger vehicles, is that it doesn't produce enough power, and certainly obviously you would need a very, very sunny day, and that's obviously throughout the year, to create that power. So it's a little bit, if there was like thinking of Tumbledown, getting charge points in there eventually when we need more, then the solar panel goes into the distribution board there and is used first, so it would always help subsidise the power from the grid. But I don't believe having enough solar panels to charge our fleet would be cost effective for us with the amount of solar panels and batteries you would need to do that, because especially as the charging we would need would be overnight, when we'd have to be able to store all of that power in batteries to be able to charge during the obviously because we can't get the sun at night. But yeah, so we are looking at every possible way to make sure we've got enough capacity and it's as good a rate as we can get it.
Thought you might be. Thank you.
Thank you. I just had the cover boot so I could see Peter Dickinson. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a couple of points. First of all, could we have a naming competition for this van? You know, Oral's van, or I don't know. But it's something perhaps the youth council could look at, because they've got some money, they could give a prize. And the second thing is, does this buying of this vehicle follow our modern slavery policy? Because in our modern slavery policy, it says that we won't support countries who have forced labour. This is Chinese, where forced labour is used. Are we going to follow our policies? Because I've had this argument with answering the planning thing, when I said it was the planning team that should have answered it. I've said it on the grant funding. It says wages should not be paid, but it's been overruled. We set these policies up, we should follow them.
Thank you, Chair. The simple answer is we are complying with our modern slavery statement in terms of what our requirements are under the public procurement regulations and modern slavery regulations from 2015. So our requirements are being met. There are other moral, ethical discussions which could be had, which fall outside of our policy and what our requirements are, and that's for other discussions. But as far as we're concerned, we do comply with what we are required to do.
David, simply having a second bite of the cherry.
Yes, please. Forgive me, but I had a quick Google. It looks like about 8 to 10 grand for a replacement battery for a vehicle of that size. Ballpark in today's money, not 8 years or so's money.
We've got including officers up to now. Do you want to move on to debate among yourselves about the pros and cons of this vehicle? Or is someone like to propose and second it? So is that a proposal? Yeah. Anyone like to second it? Councillor Toft. Any more debate required? Councillor Clement.
I think councillor Dixon raised a really interesting point, so just having a quick scan through. There are allegations of forced labour in this area, in the Shanghai area, and Seiko are the overall manufacturers of this. I do think that it's something that if we say something, then we ought to do it. And I'm uncomfortable with the idea, because I don't know enough information about the background to this organisation, but I do have a quick look at Human Rights Watch, and although it's not directly named, the region it's built in is named. It's something we should be worried about.
Yeah, those on the chair.
Yeah, the proposal, but in which case the people would vote no if they. Let's
Yeah,
back
thank
to
you.
debating.
I agree actually with councillor Dickinson and councillor Clifford. I feel this is something that's come to us without, it's just a yes or no, isn't it? What we haven't got is a variety of, you know, do we buy a Chinese tipper truck, do we buy a Ford tipper truck, do we buy a UK manufactured tipper truck? So I feel, say again?
There isn't one available.
Oh, well, I mean, but do we know that?
Yes.
Oh, so this is the only electric tipper? I beg your pardon.
Chair.
It doesn't.
So, Chair Dickinson.
Are you telling me in the whole of the world that it's only China that are producing these vehicles? I know Britain's probably not anywhere near. I really can't believe that.
Yeah, so like I said, I didn't do the research into the specific vehicles, so I can go back to the officer and find out what other vehicles are close or meet our requirements. This was the vehicle that best met our requirements in terms of everything they looked at. And certainly at the cost point as well, that was, you know, a competitive cost. So if what councillors are asking for is that I go back to offices and see if there's somewhere other than the countries that have been highlighted as potentially challenging our human rights policy and things, then obviously we can do that if that's what councillors want me to do.
Yeah, it's usually one person talking per debate, but we're probably moving on to discussions. I think so. It's Councillor Leary is there, but I think was first. Yeah. Councillor Weather.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to say, given the disquiet of members, would it be the feeling of the majority of you that we ask officers to go back and have a look at what alternatives there are? I think that it's going to be limited, but you might feel happier if you're given those choices. Clearly, to me, the decision to go electric, if we can, is what we want to do. You'd like to feel happier with what electric you go. Offhand, I can't think of a British alternative. If there is a European one, I don't know of it, but I don't have the definitive knowledge on electric vehicles, certainly. You know, the Citroens and the Renaults do commercial vehicles, but I don't think any of them do anything of this type and this large. But they may do, you know. There's the Ape in Italy, but that's a bit small for what we need. So that's a problem. But perhaps there are big Apes now, I don't know. So perhaps we should be having a look.
Right, then as things stand, when we have a motion on the table which has been proposed and seconded, we could go for an amendment. If someone could propose an amendment, which we can then vote on, then change the substantive motion. I just float that for you to all to consider. There's a few more people wanting to speak again, so hopefully with new points. Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, I was going to come in and vote in favour of this, and now I don't think I can. We have two policies. One is a decarbonisation policy, the other is child slavery. We have to decide as a council which one are we trying to weigh up here as being more important. I think we don't have the full facts on whether there are alternatives that allow us to meet both policies. And until we do, we cannot. But I mean, I would be in favour of a diesel or electric or a petrol alternative, and I would be one that would break child slavery and buying goods that are basically being manufactured in completely inhumane and barbaric ways. So therefore, I can vote in favour of the proposal that is on the floor at the moment and would instead prefer a deferment until we see the other options.
We'll see if someone proposes an amendment to this. Councillor Bang.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask Ben, how, can we limp along with our existing vehicle? Like, how time sensitive is it if we don't approve this today?
So, yes, we can. So the Google vehicle, which some of you may or may not know we had before, which was an old vehicle, electric, very small, very slow, top speed, sort of 15, 20 mile an hour, has died, hence why we're trying to replace that with another electric vehicle, but more multi-purpose. And obviously with this, we can then do bigger, wider tasks with it, hence why the cage tipper meets our requirements. And obviously we were trying to fulfill everything that we could to meet the decarbonisation plan and the usage and make it as multifunctioning. And we're trying to tick in all the boxes through both sort of areas. We can keep going with the diesel vehicles, but obviously it will be the same sort of as we're doing now, 2 parts of the round, higher mileage, etc. But yes, we can keep going. So what I've sort of picked up is that if it was that there's no other electric vehicle other than Chinese or Eastern production, we could consider diesel or petrol vehicles. But that won't help us with our decarbonisation policy, which was the drive for the vehicle replacement model. That's the steer officers have been working to. So we can bring that back with diesel/petrol alternatives if there's no other electric vehicle that doesn't meet those Eastern countries that we're concerned about. So we can bring that back.
Thank you.
Right, so we're in the stage of the debate. We've had a proposal which was proposed and seconded, but we're getting the idea there might be dissent. I'd be quite keen on picking up Councillor O'Leary's about getting something that ticks both policies rather than one. How about the idea of it's anyone going to put an amendment through for us to delay or defer to get more facts? So can I put it back to you to come up with an amendment? So Councillor Taylor first.
Thank you. Can we put an amendment in that says that the recommendations as written are deleted and are replaced with the decision to agree the release of funds are delayed until further information is provided on alternatives, the cost of batteries, and is there anything else that anybody wanted to add?
Councillor Todd.
I feel, I'm sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel that perhaps we're just tarring everything Chinese with the same brush because it comes from the same region. Do we categorically know that that company has a dodgy human rights record? And if it doesn't, if it has an exemplary human rights record and stands above others, then surely we
Proceed.
Yeah.
So part of the amendment could be that we look into this company and decide what its human right record is. Can we add that?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to add that to the amendment.
Okay, should we try and capture the words of the amendment?
Could we put further information in, and it's a catch-all, isn't it? We need information on alternatives. We need information on this particular company and the ongoing costs of an electric vehicle, whatever it is.
Okay, so we'll try and capture those. I think the template is capturing those words.
As soon as possible.
We need a second once we've got a form of words. Okay. Seconds it. Is that, I can't see it behind me. Is everyone happy with those words?
And spare parts.
Councillor Taylor again.
Can I just ask whether we want it brought back to, do we want it to come straight to full council?
Yes.
Or do we don't need it to go to their effigy or something like that, do we? Okay, we'll come straight back. So it needs to put in that it's returned to full council, please.
Yes, hopefully it comes back with the answers. We can move more swiftly. We've debated it pretty well tonight, and quite appropriately. Okay, so that's the amendment, it's proposed and seconded. Shall we vote on the amendment? All those in favour?
It's unanimous, Chair.
There we go. Okay, so that's now the substantive motion. Right, so that's now the substantive motion, so we need a proposer and a second of the substantive motion. Councillor Civil and Councillor proposes Councillor Taylor was quicker. That's a second. So that is the re-substantive motion, so all those in favour?
It's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, all right. Thank you. That was a good debate. That's an example of what I was talking about earlier on, is that to be able to have debate where we listen to each other and change our, if you like, because I thought I was going to be waiting for that, and I ended up not waiting for it. This is democracy and councils in action, so.
Read the standing.
Vote against that.
The number 10, external auditor conflict of interest. Let's make this is more straightforward. Ian Mill.
I hope this is fairly straightforward, Chair. Each year we have our external auditors come in and undertake their audit. There's a requirement which they need from us to confirm that there's no conflict of interest. The most common conflict of interest would be is if we've asked them to undertake some work on our behalf on a financial matter and then they come in and audit their own work. So Jane and I ensure that there isn't any of those conflicts of interest. We just ask members if they believe that they have any relationships with the BDO, which are external auditors. If there are, we will record them, but if not, Chair, then we will ask members to confirm that they are happy for yourself, myself and Jane to sign the form saying that we have no conflict of interest.
Any questions?
The recommendation.
Proposed by Councillor Harris. Anyone debate, or was that a second? Seconded. Any debate? No, I'll move to the vote. All those in favour?
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Item 11, review of annual projects programme.
Thank you, Chair. So, councillors, this report is being brought forward tonight to set the scene of the projects for the coming year. The report details the current projects in progress and their current statement. A further collation will be coming to the full council meeting in June for you to consider potential funding allocations from any positive variance from the 24-25 budget. You may know this better by its other terminology, underspend, and also any ring-fenced project budgets that the council does have. This report is essentially for information, although we would be grateful if any omissions could be sent to a member of SLT, so myself, Ian or Charmaine, in the next few weeks so that we can ensure that all projects in progress are detailed for consideration by councillors in June. And I'm happy to respond to any questions, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Any questions, Councillor O'Leary?
Yeah, I fully support this, obviously being selfish in regards to wanting to see some progress on Livermore Skate Park, so I'm happy to propose this from completely selfish and parochial reasons.
You like them. Any other one else? Or?
It's the recommendation is.
So put for information only as a summary of the various project streams to inform future thinking, so it doesn't require a vote.
Don't actually need a vote, it's noted. All noted. Well, marriage tenders, Charmaine Denny, introduces a report.
Thank you, Mayor. As most of you would know, we've got within our portfolio of assets, we have 7 garages, 5 located at Malcolm Place within the Park District and 2 located at Rodwell next to Rodwell allotments. We tend, over the last 6 years, what we've tended to do is lease these out on short-term leases, so around 2 years, 1-2 years. So that we've recently been out to tender, 75 tender packs were distributed, 10 responses, all these details are within the confidential appendix. And we're asking members this evening to confirm that they're happy to sign and seal the leases for these tenders. And just to make members aware that these assets are being reviewed as part of the asset review work. However, at this time, we feel that it's best to lease them out short term whilst we're still reviewing the assets.
So we've got an officer recommendation. Any questions for officers or debate? Councillor Clifford, proposed by Councillor Clifford. Is that seconded? Seconded by Councillor O'Leary. Anyone like to debate this? If not, we will move to the vote. All those in favour?
Is unanimous.
Good. The next are information items, so have a look. You are wanting to note them. So we've got the PSBO extensions here. I looked at mine online, they all seem reasonable, and the board plan, so have a look. As we move to the close, I've got a few of my posters, I forgot to advertise them, so we'd like to take one home. We're not short. Go far. You'd like to take a poster in, that would be lovely. So we'll move to close the meeting.